Well, hello again, all of the folks in the COMM 101 class. We're going to give you some evaluations on the process speech. Now listen carefully, because even though I'm speaking to one person, what I'm saying applies to a lot of people and could save you from a lot of mistakes. First of all, every speech assignment is spelled out. It says specifically in the process speech time requirements. 5 to 7 minutes. Some of you didn't come close. I allow 15 seconds of slop time, so if it's a 5-minute speech, you've got 4:45 to 5:15, and some of you didn't make that. So, you've got to time your speeches. You've got to know how long they are, and you've got to do the job. Now, I'm going to say some things I said at the end of the first speech, and I'm saying them over, and I shouldn't have to do that, because that means that people aren't paying any attention. That does not bode well in any kind of a college situation. So let's start with Bears. Nickname, fantasy name, Bears. Good approach, good appearance in what you were talking about in there. I've got a couple of things I'll say to you at the end, but always start your speech looking right at the camera. Don't start your speech down here someplace and then all of a sudden come up and say, we're going to be talking about that this time. See, get my attention. Look me in the eye. Tell me what you're going to talk to me about. There's still ambient room noise. It sounds like there could be a fan or something on in the room, and it's disturbing. You want to control all of the environment of your room. You look off to your left for your notes, it looks like, but you don't show any sign of having any speaking notes in your hand. Also, for all of you, don't shoot with a window in the shot. The brightest thing at the camera's lens is going to cause the iris to hold down the video. You don't want that to happen. So make sure you have a nice neutral wall with nothing shiny, no lights on behind you and things like that. Don't make it obvious when you've made a mistake. You're going along and you're saying, I pledge allegiance to the Don't do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Most of the time, the audience isn't going to know you made a mistake if you stay on topic, if you stay at the various levels of what you were doing. But the minute that you show that you've made a mistake, then they will note the mistake that they hadn't previously noted. So when you make a mistake, keep right on going as though nothing happened. Correct it. If you say Danny and you meant to say James, you say, as I said when I was talking to Danny, I meant James, then people won't even notice the difference that much. If you lose your space, don't show it. Maintain poise. Poise is hugely important. Excellent summary, Bears. You ran under. Your speech was not long enough. Now, you're talking about food, and you look here, Fat Boy and food. For one, food is fun. Food is exciting. Banana bread is even greater. So show some emotion. Smile a little bit. Say, good, or something like that. I know it sounds stupid, but it gets your personality into the speech a little bit. Show some personality. If you have sources, cite sources in the speech. Now, according to the instructions, sources weren't required, but if you have sources at the end of your speech in the outline and all of that, and you intended for something to be said, then the source has to be in the speech, because unless people see your outline, they don't know that you had a source. Also, for all of you, establish your credibility right off the top. Bears, you could say something like, I've been cooking since I was 4 years old, and I've taken some classes in cooking. Establish some kind of authority for why you are talking about what it is that you're talking about. And that's pretty much it. Let's take a look at Chaser. Chaser, very good setup on your speech. Again, I'm not sure that when you're talking about trash, it's something that you can show a lot of personality about, but it was almost too academic. You're talking to a general audience, and when you're talking to a general audience, You've got to be really general in what you say, and you can give us too much information. Okay, there's a hole in the ground, you dump some garbage in it, and then you cover it up with dirt. And you cover it up with dirt so birds and rodents won't get to it. Leaching and all of the other stuff, you got to introduce that in a different way. That one of the reasons you cover it is because if water gets into that and there's not something to keep it from leaking or draining into the water supply, then contaminants can happen from there, etc., etc. So don't get too technical when you give a speech. You're the expert. We're the people who are not experts, so you got to do it in terms that I understand. I spent 10 years as a news correspondent for NBC News, and I interviewed a lot of important people, and you don't know how many times I had to say to them, can you put that in terms that I could understand? So keep in mind, your audience does not know what you know, so always talk in terms that they can understand from their point of reference. You're too serious, Chaser. Smile a little bit. Talk to me. Don't lecture me. You lost your flow on occasion, and when you do that, it really hits that you kind of lost the rhythm. Work a little bit more on eye contact and show some enthusiasm. Overall, you hit the time and you did quite well on everything. Cubbies. Second time in a row you were sitting instead of standing. Now, I know you said you were sitting because you wanted to show something. What I saw you hold up, you could just as easily have held up from a standing position. You were conversational in what you did. You were sitting, and take a look at the video. Watch your right leg. It's bouncing. You know, it's just bouncing a lot, and it's distracting. Slow down a bit on specific terms for clarity. You talk about rocker and binder, and make sure I understand what you're saying. And if you've got something you can show, then show the binder, show the rocker when you're talking about it, and make it really, really clear what it is you're referring to. But watch terms. Inside terms you understand are not necessarily terms I understand. Make it clear from the start you're talking about snow skiing, not water skiing, or waterboarding versus snowboarding. Establish your authority again. Have you been doing this yourself? If so, for how long? Do you teach? Tell us why you're in authority. Everyone's speech, when Chaser was doing her speech, she established that she's been involved in the field for 12 years. Established authority. All right? Make it clear from the start that you know something about what you're talking about, and you're not just talking about it as a hobbyist. Great eye contact, maybe a little too technical, a little too detailed. Work on wakeboard and make it distinct. Wakeboard, not waterboard, so that we understand that. And you ran short, very short. So you've got to time these things out. If this went too long, I'm going to make another short one in a second, so kind of watch for that, and we'll be back to you in a moment.